I mean, I've been setting the intention to, become aware of projection lately. And I have to be completely honest with you, it has been a really wild, baffling, and honestly kind of exhausting ride.
Oh, I'm sure. It usually is at first.
Right. Like, I have been having these incredibly strange, sudden physical sensations. We are talking about intense vibrations that just seem to start right at the base of my spine and then kind of radiate outward.
Yeah, the vibrations, that's a huge sign.
And sometimes there are these bizarre, sudden floating feelings, too,
Hmm.
almost like my limbs are just totally unmoored from gravity. But every single time this happens, one of two things occurs without fail.
Let me guess, you either get way too excited or completely terrified.
Exactly, yes. Either I realize what is happening and I get entirely too excited, like my physical heart literally starts racing, my breathing gets shallow, and I immediately snap wide awake. Or, on the flip side, I just freeze in absolute panic because the sensations are so overwhelming and, well, absolutely nothing happens. The moment just passes, leaving me staring at the ceiling in the dark. It is incredibly frustrating.
Oh, I completely understand.
So looking at the massive stack of source material we have for today, I mean, I am desperate to know the mechanics of this. Seth must have practical, grounded techniques. How do I actually navigate this state without sabotaging the experience every single time?
Well, the frustration you're describing is honestly a nearly universal rite of passage. I mean, almost everyone who attempts to consciously project runs headfirst into that exact same wall of excitement or panic.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better at least.
It's totally normal. But to ground us right at the start of this exploration, there is a specific quote from the material that perfectly encapsulates the philosophy we are going to unpack today. In these texts, Seth is remarkably clear and, I think, deeply reassuring.
What does he say?
He states, "The consciousness can leave the body safely. Fear is the only barrier. Trust is the key."
Trust is the key. I mean, that sounds beautiful on paper, but it is so much easier said than done.
Oh, absolutely.
Like when your physical body feels like it is plugged into an electrical socket and vibrating at 1,000 miles an hour, trust is the last thing on your mind.
Exactly. Your survival instincts just completely take over.
But that is exactly what we are here to explore today. Welcome to our deep dive, everyone. And we are speaking directly to you, the listener, right now.
Yes, welcome.
We know that so many of you are likely stuck at that exact same vibration stage, hovering right on the edge of an out-of-body experience, but completely unable to cross the threshold.
It's a very common plateau.
Right. So our mission today is to entirely demystify these experiences. We're going to break down specific, gentle, and highly practical methods extracted directly from Seth's teachings. By the time we finish this deep dive, you're going to have a comprehensive, step-by-step roadmap to navigate these sensations safely.
And we are drawing our roadmap strictly from 3 foundational sources today. We're looking at Seth, Dreams and Projections of Consciousness, Seth Speaks, and the Nature of the Psyche.
Perfect.
Because Seth approaches projection not as some, esoteric, supernatural parlor trick reserved for mystics on mountaintops. He sees it as a completely natural, biological, and psychological function of everyday human consciousness.
Which is such a paradigm shift, really.
It is. I mean, you already project. You do it every single night when you enter the dream state. The only difference we are discussing today is how to bring your waking, conscious awareness along for the journey rather than just leaving it behind on the pillow.
So wait, if we are already doing this naturally every single night, what is the mechanism that makes it so incredibly difficult to do it on purpose?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. Why does the conscious mind act like such a massive roadblock to something that is supposedly just a biological given?
Well, the difficulty stems from the incredibly tight evolutionary partnership between your physical body and your conscious ego during waking hours. Okay.
Your ego is essentially the chief operating officer of your physical survival. Its primary job is to focus your consciousness entirely on physical reality to keep you safe from physical threats.
So it's literally just doing its job.
Exactly. To consciously project, you have to temporarily convince that chief operating officer to step down from its post. You have to alter that tight partnership. And that brings us to Seth's first core technique, which forms the absolute foundation of any conscious projection attempt, which is deep physical relaxation, right?
Yes. Deep physical relaxation.
I want to pause on that phrase for a second because we aren't just talking about, sitting on the couch drinking tea and watching a movie. When I look through the texts, this appears to be a very specific, almost paradoxical state of being.
It is very specific. Yeah.
I always visualize it as walking a tightrope. The physical body must be completely, utterly, heavily asleep. But the conscious mind has to remain perfectly crystal clear, alert.
That's a great way to put it.
Because if the mind falls asleep, you just roll over into a normal dream state and lose the thread. But if the body stays even slightly awake, you remain locked into your physical senses.
The tightrope analogy captures the difficulty perfectly. Seth advises daily progressive relaxation for a very mechanical reason. We live in a society where our bodies are constantly bombarded by intense stimuli.
Oh, absolutely. Screens, noise, stress.
Right, and as a result, we carry chronic tension in our muscle fibers that we aren't even consciously aware of. Our shoulders are hiked up, our jaws are clenched, our breathing is shallow.
I'm literally unclenching my jaw right now as you say that.
See, exactly. And from the perspective of the ego, if your physical body has even a microscopic amount of tension, that tension acts as an energetic anchor.
Oh, cow. Okay.
The conscious mind registers that clenched jaw and says, I am still needed here to manage this physical tension. The body is not safe to be left alone.
That makes so much sense. So it won't let go.
Exactly. The body must be deliberately trained to let go of that chronic holding pattern. You have to practice relaxing the physical organism piece by piece. The toes, the calves, the thighs, the abdomen, the chest, the arms, the neck.
Even the microscopic muscles around the eyes, right?
Yes, all of it. Until the physical form feels heavy, inert, and completely safe in its restive state.
Okay, so I've actually tried that progressive relaxation, and when you finally reach that state of profound, heavy physical relaxation, a very specific mechanism kicks in. You hit this strange biological threshold.
Falling sensation.
Yes, you feel a sudden, intense dropping or falling sensation, like right in the center of your chest. And for most people, and definitely for me, that is the exact moment the ego slams the emergency brake.
The jolt.
You jerk awake, your heart pounds. The ego basically screams, "We're falling. Wake up. You're in danger."
Right, and in sleep medicine, that physical reaction is actually known as a hypnagogic jerk. It is a well-documented neurological reflex.
So it's literally just a brain glitch.
Sort of. As your muscles relax into sleep, the brain sometimes misinterprets the sudden drop in physical tension as a literal physical fall, and it sends a jolt of energy to your limbs to catch yourself.
But Seth views this transition state entirely differently, doesn't he?
He does. He introduces this not as a biological error to be fixed, but as a crucial tool. Instead of fighting that sudden falling or dropping sensation as you drift into sleep, the method requires you to use it as a launch pad.
You know, the idea of using the dropping sensation as a launch pad completely reframes the experience for me. Think about it like catching a massive wave right as it swells beneath your surfboard.
Oh, I like that analogy.
When you feel that wave suddenly lifting you and the water dropping away beneath your board, your immediate instinctual reaction is to tense your muscles and resist the motion because it feels inherently unstable.
Right, you want to brace yourself.
Exactly. But any surfer will tell you, if you tense up and fight the wave, you wipe out. The only way to ride the wave successfully is to relax your center of gravity into the momentum.
That's perfectly said.
So when you feel that internal falling or dropping sensation as you fall asleep, instead of tensing your physical muscles and triggering that hypnagogic jerk, you have to ride it. You imagine yourself effortlessly floating upward on the current, or you visualize your inner self gently shaking loose, side to side, detaching from the physical flesh.
Shifting your center of gravity away from the physical body and into the non-physical consciousness is the exact mechanism required here. Once you are successfully riding that wave of dropping without triggering the panic response, you enter a deeply relaxed, floating state.
Okay, but this raises an immediate logistical issue for me.
What's that?
If your physical eyes are closed and asleep, and your physical ears are tuning out the room, how are you actually perceiving anything?
Right. Seth emphasizes in The Nature of the Psyche that human consciousness is equipped with what he calls inner senses, or inner perceptors.
Inner perceptors.
Yes. These are faculties of perception that operate completely independently of the physical biological form.
Wait, I need to push back on the concept of inner perceptors for a moment. When Seth says inner senses, is he speaking metaphorically about imagination? Or is he describing a literal functional method of perceiving reality that completely bypasses the optical nerve and the eardrum?
It's the latter.
Because if I am out of my physical body, I am clearly not using physical retinas to process light waves.
He is absolutely describing a literal functional method of perception, not just a metaphor for imagination. According to the texts, your physical senses, sight, hearing, touch, are actually just biological translations of these broader inner senses.
Oh, really?
Yes, the physical senses are narrowed down and specialized to help you survive in physical reality. But the inner senses are the origin point. They perceive energy, frequency, and intent directly without needing a physical organ to translate them.
That is wild.
To actively engage those inner senses while you are in that deeply relaxed floating state, Seth advises a specific visualization technique. You don't try to force your physical eyes to see through your eyelids.
That just causes tension anyway.
Exactly. Instead, you visualize a very familiar, mundane location. It shouldn't be a place that is highly emotionally charged because strong emotion will snap you right back to the physical body.
So nothing too exciting.
Right. It should be somewhere you know intimately, the corner of your living room, or, a hallway you walk down every single day. You don't physically try to move your muscles to walk there. You simply intend your consciousness to be present in that space.
Okay, so I set the intention, I visualize the familiar hallway, but let's talk about the actual granular sensations that occur when you do this. Because here is where the rubber meets the road, and I know you, listening right now, have probably slammed into this exact same wall.
The transition sensations.
Yes. You do the progressive relaxation, you successfully ride the falling wave without jerking awake, you set the intention to proceed the next room, and suddenly, out of nowhere, it sounds like actual freight train is rushing through your bedroom.
It can be so loud.
Or you hear loud, sharp, popping noises right next to your ear. Or your entire physical body feels like it is vibrating at a terrifying, bone-rattling frequency. The texts mention this, but what is actually happening mechanically? Why does the transition feel so violent?
Well, the violence of the sensation is actually an illusion created by the translation process. The loud sounds, the freight train noises, the intense vibrations, these are completely natural, expected signs of separation.
So it's not dangerous.
Not at all. What is mechanically happening is a massive shift in the frequency of your consciousness. Your awareness is shifting its focus from the dense, slow frequency of physical reality to the faster, lighter frequency of non-physical reality.
Okay, so it's a frequency shift.
Right. And because your conscious mind is still partially plugged into your physical brain's sensory receptors, the biological brain attempts to interpret this massive, non-physical energy shift using the only language it knows: physical sensory data.
Oh, wow.
So it literally translates the energy shift into the physical sensation of a loud noise or a violent vibration. That makes so much sense. It sounds remarkably similar to the loud burst of static you hear when you are turning the dial on an old analog radio between two clear stations.
Yes, that's it exactly.
Like, the static isn't a malfunction of the radio, and the radio isn't breaking apart. The static is just the audible sound of the transition between frequencies.
That analogy perfectly illustrates the mechanism. The static is just the transition. When you experience those vibrations or the freight train sound, the absolute worst thing you can do is react.
Which is so hard not to do.
It is. But if you get excited and your ego thinks, oh my goodness, it's finally happening, I'm projecting, your conscious attention immediately snaps back to monitor the physical body.
And then it's over.
Yep. The frequency shift halts, the vibrations instantly stop, and you find yourself wide awake staring at the ceiling. The required mechanism in that moment is to simply allow the static to occur. You observe it passively, without judgment, and just let it pass.
But let's explore the alternative scenario, which is arguably much more terrifying for a beginner.
What if I don't snap awake? What if I'm lying there, I feel the static and the vibrations, and I suddenly realize I cannot move my physical arms or legs at all?
Ah, yes. Sleep paralysis.
It feels incredibly claustrophobic, like I have been buried alive inside my own skin, try to lift my hand, and it's like my brain has just been entirely disconnected from my muscles.
You are describing a very common biological stage that is widely misunderstood. In clinical terminology, this is diagnosed as sleep paralysis or REM atonia.
Rematonia.
Yes. Biologically, your physical body has successfully fallen asleep, and the brain has paralyzed the major muscle groups. This is a built-in safety mechanism to ensure you don't physically act out your dreams and injure yourself in bed.
So it's supposed to happen.
Absolutely. But because you have maintained that tightrope of awareness we talked about, your conscious mind has remained awake while the body paralyzed itself. You are literally trapped in the borderland between waking and sleeping.
And, I mean, if you don't understand the biology behind rematonia, finding yourself paralyzed in bed is an absolutely terrifying experience.
It is terrifying because the ego assumes it has lost control and that physical death might be imminent. But from Seth's structural framework, this paralysis is not a problem. It is a highly advantageous state.
Really? Advantageous.
Yes, sleep paralysis is often the direct precursor to a conscious out-of-body projection. The guidance here is entirely counterintuitive to your survival instincts, though. You must relax directly into the paralysis.
Relax into being paralyzed. That sounds impossible.
I know, but if you panic and try to force your physical arm to move, you are sending frantic emergency signals to your sleeping biological body. The ego triggers an adrenaline dump, the heart rate spikes, and you completely shatter the delicate state.
You wake yourself up.
Exactly. Instead, when you realize you cannot move physically, you use it as confirmation. You say to yourself, this is perfect. My physical anchor is fully detached. Now I can move my inner body.
So you lean into it.
You imagine floating upward or gently rolling out of the physical shell. You don't fight the paralysis, you leverage it.
Which brings up my biggest fear, and I know I am not alone in this. Let's play devil's advocate regarding this so-called empty house theory.
Okay, let's hear it.
If I successfully detach my consciousness, bypass the paralysis, and leave my physical body lying empty on the bed, what is stopping my body from simply forgetting how to breathe? Like, what if I get lost in this non-physical frequency and cannot find my way back? How does Seth's framework actually protect against biological failure or permanent detachment?
The fear of the empty house is deeply ingrained in us, but Seth exhaustively addresses this mechanism. He explains that your consciousness is always permanently connected to the physical body by an energetic tether or cord.
An energetic core.
Yes, it is not necessarily a visible rope, but an unbreakable energetic frequency. You cannot get lost and you cannot be locked out of your own physical form. The physical body is designed as a highly tuned homing beacon for your consciousness.
How does that homing beacon actually trigger a return, though? Is it an automatic biological response?
It is an absolute biological imperative. The survival of the physical organism always takes precedence over the projection experience.
Always.
Always. If the physical body is disturbed in any way, if a loud noise happens in the room, if the temperature drops drastically, or even if a physical limb simply needs to shift position to maintain blood flow, the homing beacon activates automatically.
Oh, wow.
Your consciousness will be snapped back into the physical body instantaneously, often before you are even aware of the physical disturbance. The return mechanism is instantaneous and involuntary.
So the fear of being left vacant or losing the connection to your physical life support system is entirely baseless according to these mechanics.
It is fundamentally baseless. As the initial quote stated, fear is the only actual barrier. If you hold on to the fear of the empty house, your subconscious mind will step in to protect you.
How does it protect you? By waking you up.
It will fabricate terrifying, nightmarish imagery during the projection attempt to force your ego to panic, wake up, and protect the body.
Wait, really?
Yes. The terrifying figures people sometimes see during sleep paralysis are often just the subconscious mind's way of forcing you to wake up because you are holding on to fear.
That is mind-blowing.
If you hold on to trust, acknowledging the unbreakable tether, you allow the natural biological mechanism of projection to unfold smoothly.
Okay, let's ground all this abstract theory into some verifiable reality. Because hearing about energetic cords, frequency shifts, and inner perceptors can start to feel, a bit unmoored from the physical world.
I agree. It helps to look at real examples.
Exactly. I want to look at how this actually played out for Jane Roberts herself. I've read through these case studies, and it's one thing to say this is all just an internal psychological experience, like highly advanced lucid dreaming. But how did she go from channeling this philosophical information to actually experiencing objective, verifiable projection?
Well, Jane's personal journey is crucial to this deep dive because she was not a natural mystic. She was naturally very skeptical of her own channeled experiences at first.
Which is so funny to think about.
It is, but she needed objective, third-party validation to believe she wasn't just hallucinating. And there is a deeply documented incident in Seth Speaks involving a woman named Miss Cunningham that provided exactly that kind of validation.
Yes. I've always found the Miss Cunningham incident to be the most compelling piece of evidence. If this is all just occurring inside the brain, how does Seth explain the mechanics of what Jane achieved here without it sounding like pure magic?
The mechanics are fascinating. So Jane had gone to bed and fallen asleep, but she woke up internally in a state where she felt completely dissociated from her physical body.
Okay.
She found herself conscious, but she was wandering around the environment of her old apartment, perceiving the surroundings. However, she didn't just remain isolated in a subjective dreamscape. Her consciousness traveled to another room in the actual physical house where her husband Rob was currently awake and working.
And the detail that strips away the lucid dream argument here is that she was able to accurately describe the specific granular details of what Rob was doing in that room. Details she could not possibly have known if she were simply having a dream confined to the neural pathways in her own physical brain while lying asleep in bed.
Precisely. She observed his actions through those inner perceptors we discussed earlier. When she woke up physically, she immediately detailed what she had seen. And Rout later confirmed that the illness she described matched his actual physical actions in the other room at that exact time.
That is incredible.
When they subsequently held a channeled session to ask Seth to analyze the event, Seth confirmed that the experience was a legitimate, objective projection of consciousness. But what is truly vital for our discussion today is not just the validation of the event.
It's the method, right?
Yes. It's the specific mechanical method Seth pointed out that Jane had used to achieve it without even realizing it.
The rollout method. When I first read about this, I was almost disappointed by how incredibly mundane it is.
It is very mundane.
Right. We're culturally conditioned to think of astral projection as this explosive, mystical rocket ship ride where you shoot out of your crown chakra into the cosmos. But Seth's guidance to Jane was remarkably grounded.
It is the absolute antithesis of the mystical rocket ship. Seth specifically recommended what he called the rollout method to them for future attempts.
How does it work?
He instructed Jane that when she found herself in that deeply relaxed borderland state between waking and sleeping, she should not try to violently force her consciousness out, and she shouldn't try to fly up to the ceiling.
So no floating upwards.
No. He said you simply intend to roll out of bed and walk into the next room, utilizing the exact same motion you use every single morning without moving the physical body.
See, why is that mundane motion so critical to the success of the technique? Why does rolling over work better than imagining yourself floating up?
Because it is a brilliant psychological hack to bypass the ego's alarm system.
Oh, I see.
That action, rolling over in bed and standing up, is already deeply physically ingrained in your subconscious neural pathways. Your inner senses and your cellular memory know exactly what it feels like to roll out of bed.
Because we do it every day.
Right. By using that familiar everyday motion, you don't trigger the ego's panic response. If you try to float up to the ceiling, the ego says, "Humans don't float. This is a dangerous anomaly. Wake up."
That is so true.
But if you simply imagine rolling over, the ego says, "Oh, we are just getting up to go to the bathroom. This is a normal, safe routine," and it remains calm while the inner self successfully separates.
The psychological paradigm shift this caused for Jane is just incredible. Up until that verified event, she could theoretically discuss consciousness being independent of the brain, but it was just philosophy.
It was just words.
Having a successful, objectively verifiable projection proved to her, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that she was not strictly confined to her physical body. It wasn't a trick of the brain. It was a biological reality of the human psyche.
It completely dismantled her skepticism. It deepened her trust in the non-physical nature of her own consciousness. Once she realized she was safely independent of her flesh, the fear evaporated, and her ability to navigate these states expanded exponentially.
Which provides an immense amount of hope to anyone listening to this right now. If Jane Roberts, who started out highly skeptical and deeply rooted in a physical worldview, could learn to navigate these mechanics, so can you.
Absolutely.
So let's pivot from Jane's historical journey to how the listener can actually replicate this exact experience tonight. How do we take all these complex mechanics, the tension, the falling wave, the vibrations, the paralysis, the rollout, and synthesize them into a workable, practical method?
We synthesize it by making a very specific structural change to how you practice. The secret is separating the preparation phase from the actual projection attempt.
Wait, separating them?
Yes. This is the exact point where 99% of people fail. They lie down at night, absolutely exhausted from the stresses of their day. They close their eyes and try to force their body to relax, try to ride the falling sensation, try to manage the terrifying vibrations, and try to roll out of their body all simultaneously while their ego is exhausted and defensive.
Yeah, that sounds like exactly what I do.
It is way too much psychological pressure. Seth lays out a strict, bifurcated, but incredibly gentle regimen.
Okay, so the first phase of this regimen is a daily practice, entirely removed from the pressure of nighttime sleep. You are supposed to practice deep, progressive physical relaxation daily for just 10 minutes, entirely separate from any attempt to project.
Yes, this daytime practice is non-negotiable. You do this in the middle of the afternoon, you sit upright in a comfortable chair, and you do not, under any circumstances, try to leave your body during this 10-minute window.
So you just relax.
Your only goal is to practice the physical, mechanical act of letting your muscle fibers go completely limp while keeping your conscious mind awake and observing. You are essentially doing exposure therapy for your ego.
Exposure therapy, I love that.
You are training the physical organism to feel safe and secure while the conscious mind is detached and observant. You have to build a baseline of profound trust between the ego and the biological body before you ever attempt a separation.
And then the second phase occurs when you are actually preparing for sleep at night,
Oh,
or if you are taking a dedicated daytime nap. That is when you employ the rollout technique.
correct. You get into bed with the intention of sleeping. You allow yourself to get deeply relaxed, utilizing the muscle memory training you've been building during your daytime practice.
Right.
As you drift into that hypnagogic state, as the random images start to flash behind your closed eyelids and your physical limbs begin to feel incredibly heavy and numb, you simply introduce a gentle intention.
Just a gentle intention.
You imagine your inner consciousness gently rolling over to the side of the bed. You imagine stepping right out of your physical form and standing next to the mattress, just as you would on a normal morning.
I love to analogize the required mindset for this. You trying to get a highly independent, skittish cat to sit in your lap.
Oh, this is a great analogy.
If you aggressively chase the cat around the living room, pick it up against its will, and force it down onto your lap, it is going to scratch you, panic, and bolt away. The harder you try to enforce your will, the more violently the cat resists. You are bullying the situation.
Exactly.
But if you just sit quietly in the chair, set the internal intention that your lap is a warm, safe place, and then completely ignore the cat and read a book, eventually the cat will wander over, investigate, and settle down on its own terms.
Seth's warnings echo that analogy perfectly. He explicitly states in the text, do not attempt to bully or command the subconscious.
Bully the subconscious, wow.
If you use sheer brute willpower to force an out-of-body experience to happen, your ego is gripping the steering wheel entirely too tightly. You are generating internal tension, which we know acts as an anchor.
Right, the clenched jaw.
You have to adopt a mindset of passive, curious observation. You set the intention to roll out. You trust the biological process. And if the intense sensations arise, if you feel the deep vibrations or hear the loud static, you remain entirely calm.
You just watch it happen.
You observe the sensations like a curious scientist observing an experiment. You do not react emotionally.
All right, this brings us to the practical, actionable application for you, the listener. We want to issue a gentle, structured one-week challenge based strictly on Seth's methodologies.
Yes, a one-week challenge.
If you have been stuck at that terrifying vibration stage, or if you've been freezing up in sleep paralysis, this is your assignment for the next 7 days.
It is a 3-step weekly practice, and the entire architecture of this challenge is focused on completely removing the pressure of performance from the ego.
Okay, step 1. For the next 7 days, you will practice 10 minutes of deep, progressive physical relaxation daily. Do this during the day, in a chair. Scan your body from your toes to your jaw, releasing every ounce of muscular tension.
And remember, do not try to project.
Right. Just train your biological body to let go of its defensive posture while your mind remains clear and awake.
Step 2. At bedtime, use the specific rollout intention. Get comfortable, let yourself drift towards sleep, and just hold the gentle, passive intention that as your physical body paralyzes itself for sleep, your inner self will simply roll out to the side of the bed.
Keep it light.
Do not use willpower. Do not force it. Do not get frustrated if it doesn't happen on Tuesday night.
And step 3, which is arguably the most vital piece of the puzzle for long-term success. Keep a journal on your nightstand.
Yes, the journal is key.
Every morning, record any sensations you experience during the transition state. Document everything, whether it's a slight buzzing in your ears, a sudden feeling of floating, the hypnagogic falling sensation, or hearing strange static sounds.
Everything goes in the journal.
But here is the absolute trick to the journaling. You must log these sensations without any expectation of succeeding or failing at projection.
The psychological why behind this journaling requirement is crucial for bypassing your own roadblocks. By reducing the experience to merely logging biological sensations, you effectively disarm the ego.
Because the ego isn't being graded.
Exactly. The ego thrives on judgment. It loves to wake up and say, I failed tonight because I didn't get out of my body. I am bad at this. That judgment creates anxiety for the next attempt.
Which causes tension.
But if your only defined goal is to passively observe and record the physical sensations of falling asleep, the ego relaxes its guard. You entirely remove the fear of failure.
That is so smart.
And when the fear of failure is neutralized, the natural inner senses are finally given the permission they need to take over. You are allowing your consciousness to separate naturally, just as it does every night, but this time with the lights of your awareness left on.
I have to say, looking at all of this laid out so clearly, understanding the biology of the tension, the mechanics of the static, and the psychological hack of the rollout method, I feel an immense sense of relief.
Good. That's the goal.
For so long, the concept of projection felt like this intense, dangerous, forceful breaking of physical laws. It felt like I was trying to hack the universe. But Seth frames it as the most natural biological function in the world.
It really is.
It is simply a matter of systematically relaxing the physical anchor, trusting the unbreakable safety cord, and gently, mundanely rolling out of the way. I feel equipped with a clear, gentle, and highly practical roadmap now, and I truly hope you, listening right now, feel that exact same profound reassurance.
It is a profoundly reassuring, empowering framework. Your consciousness is naturally mobile by design. It is not a prisoner of the skull. It is meant to explore the broader frequencies of reality. You are not learning a supernatural trick. You are just learning how to consciously participate in a journey your inner self already takes every single night.
And the architecture of where you can go on that journey is absolutely limitless once you get past the bedroom door.
It truly is limitless. In fact, if we connect this foundational practice to the broader scope of the Seth material, getting out of the physical body is merely the foyer to a much larger, endlessly complex architecture of reality.
Oh, there's always more to explore.
Always. Which leaves us with a fascinating mind-expanding concept to ponder for the future. Once you have mastered the rollout and you are stable in the non-physical state, you aren't just limited to floating around your living room looking at the furniture.
What else is there?
Next time, we explore the mechanics of probable dreams, how to use this conscious state to visit other versions of your own life, exploring the branching paths of other choices you could have made while your physical body rests safely in bed.
Okay, wow. I cannot wait to dive into the mechanics of probable realities. But for now, focus on your foundation. Commit to your 10 minutes of daily daytime relaxation.
Yes, stick to the practice.
When the static hits, embrace the vibrations without judgment. Trust the unbreakable biological process and just roll out. Your consciousness is vast, it is entirely safe, and it is ready to be explored. We will see you on the next deep dive.